Hi, I'm Phil McSweeney. I'm an angel investor as well as a mentor, coach, advisor to startups. I've made 40 plus investments, and I'm here to answer your questions about investment today.
Why is it so hard to find an angel investor?
I'd say a number of reasons, and not there aren't that many of them. Say in the UK, there are 20, perhaps 40,000, which is quite sparse, I suppose. Angel investors don't go around broadcasting that they're angel investors that much because they get, bombed by people that want money from them that don't want to invest time in building a relationship with them. And in the beginning, people don't know where to look. So, and we unpack that more in the main episode. But, they are members of angel groups or angel syndicates or um, I mean, they exist on LinkedIn. People put Angel in their profile, so you can search for them, but they won't necessarily all want to talk to you because they don't know you.
Great.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now,
Moving on.
moving on to our second question. Should we adapt our pitch to a US investor expectations or should we stay fully authentic?
And that's an interesting one in that you should think about it seriously if you are likely to want to raise money from the US, but it's not usually the first step people take. People try to raise money where they are locally or, from a network of UK investors. I guess it's not the first thing I suggest you prioritize, but you would have to prioritize it at some stage if you envisaged that your company would scale to a point of, um, being an international size unicorn type company.
Okay. All right. What is the right format for our pitch? How many slides? Intro, story, problem, what we do? What's the best flowing format?
Yeah. Do you know if I need this question annoying? You know, Because in my experience, there is no such thing as a perfect pitch. You can look at something like the Sequoia pitch template, and it will give you an order. About 12 slides. Begin with a problem, get into the solution, and so on. But what I caution against is if everybody follows the same format for their pitch, then what angels get are a load of pitches that are all as dull as each other.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
you
Yeah.
really have to work out how to bring your pitch to life from the beginning.
Should I pitch to investors at this stage? So what I think they're asking is when is the right time to approach investors?
I think the right time to approach investors is ideally when you've got some traction in your business. You've got produced an MVP, you've got it out there, you've got some early revenue and so on. I appreciate there are certain businesses that you can't do that with. So if you say, well, I want to raise money to build a hydrogen train, you
No
can't
MVP for that.
create
No.
an MVP in your kind of back garden or something. So, but in the main, need to be seeing if you can get an MVP out there and create some early traction.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Okay. How do you find angel investors that are trustworthy? How do you vet an investor?
I mean, I'd like to say that most of them are trustworthy. I've not come across any that aren't. You do come across investors that are the things I think you need to be cautious of. One is they want too much of the equity of your business for what they're prepared to invest. So that at some future time on your cap table, it's not going to look good if you've given away too much equity at too low a price to one person. And I think related to that, you need to be worried about investors that want to dominate your business and kind of manipulate it into doing something that's more like their idea than yours.
Okay.
When you get to know some investors, some will say, who have you been talking to? And you might say, well, I've been talking to Jim Smith. And they might say, be careful.
Yeah.
Angel investors are generally very good at pointing out people that they would suggest you have a bit of caution about. So,
Sure.
Good.
Okay.
Cool. I just failed my first pitch to an angel investor. How do I make financial projections for a pre-revenue startup?
well, it might be that you didn't fail because there was anything wrong with your financial projection. There are a whole load of reasons for failing. Um, so my view would be you would ask the person that you've pitched to if they would be willing to give you some feedback on your pitch. Some investors do, some don't. Some would say, well, I haven't got the time. I'm an investor. I'm not here to, mentor or advise people. They need to come better prepared. But, if you, for example, in the main episode, we talked about going to an accelerator, for example, that's the kind of help you would normally get, getting your financial projections in order to show a reasonable growth rate, a reasonable trajectory, how you stay cash flow positive, and so on. What I would say overall is that sometimes when you've done your first pitch and you've got a no, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to change your pitch at all. You just haven't found the right investors.
Yeah. Fair.
Okay, so how realistic is it to raise money from an angel investor with just an idea? We talked about this a bit in the podcast, but give us
Yeah,
a short summary.
I would say 90+% it's unlikely, if you have no experience of having raised and exited a business before. The dynamic changes if you bring a successful track record, or, I often say to people when, we talk about slide order, some people would say, where do you put the team slide? And I would say, if you've got Bill Gates to act as an advisor for your team, for your startup, he goes on slide one. You know,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what else you put, Bill Gates is an advisor. So it's not
Zero track record,
realistic,
yeah.
no track record, first startup. There are so many things that might change that.
Yeah. How do you know if investors are into your pitch during a call?
But they stay awake, you mean? Yeah.
Always a
Um,
good sign.
yeah, it's a good sign. Well, and people do a lot of non-verbal stuff that show that they're not interesting. Like they won't put their phone away and they keep looking at it and messaging and all of that nonsense. So, um, I mean, it can be difficult. People think listeners think that they can multitask, so they get on and multitask, and they've got one ear on what you're doing and one ear on what something else they're trying to do. But I think it's always a good sign when you get to the end. People ask you lots of questions
Yeah.
Okay.
because they're wanting to
They're
explore what you've
interested.
thought this through in detail. Um,
Or fall asleep.
and you talk to a room of 40 people. You'll be lucky if there's 3 or 4 people that want to invest in you. So you can't expect everybody to be bang on, alert, awake, whatever, because it's just not their thesis. So,
I guess
Sure.
that's the main thing. It's not getting disheartened by the 1 or 2 no's, or even the 10
yeah,
no's or the 20 no's. It's just keep going until you find that one investor that likes your business, likes your idea, and likes you as a person as well.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. What is a pitch deck?
A pitch deck is essentially it's a business card. It's a kind of calling card. I called it a movie trailer in the
James
main
Bond. Yeah.
program. It's
Yeah,
it's just it's an introduction to what you're trying to do that's sufficient enough to get someone's interest to lead them to want to have a more detailed conversation with. It doesn't need to tell the whole story in great detail, 10, 12 slides is, normally the kind of length that people suggest. You can overdo it. If you've got 5 minutes to talk to people, then you're just trying to excite them, raise interest, book a further conversation.
Love it.
perfect.
Okay.
How much equity in my business should I be giving away for what amount? I know this depends on the size of the business, but what's some rough estimates?
Yeah. There's a rule of thumb that says for your first raise, your pre-seed or early seed, you should be giving away no more than about 15% of your business as equity.
Interesting.
Okay.
Absolute top's about 20%. And then the next round, the rule applies again. Don't give away more than another 15% when you're seed. Next round, Series A, don't give away more than about 15%. And the idea with this rule is that you get to Series A and you still own about 50% of your business. You're still pretty much in control of it. So that when you come to, perhaps securing some VC money, they can see that you've managed your equity wisely, you haven't got a messy cap table, you can still make decisions about what happens in your business. So as well as liking the idea and liking you, they know that they can actually effect decisions with you because you haven't frittered it all away.